Part 1. A chill snaked across my ankles as I stepped onto the basement stairs, every board beneath me groaning like it resented the weight. The harsh glare from the single dangling bulb overhead forced my eyes into a squint, transforming the dust motes swirling through the air into tiny, glimmering stars. Below, the cluttered chaos of our forgotten storage, half-open cardboard boxes, stacks of bills and old homework assignments, wrinkled wrapping paper, and Jerry came into focus. He stood near the back wall, shoulders tight, half his face carved by shadow. In his hands was a slim, pink-covered book, faded by time and spotted at the corners. My stomach gave a tiny, uncertain twist. I tried to sound casual, even teasing, as I started down the last step. "Please tell me that's not my old diary," I said, chuckling like I was in on some harmless joke, even though I couldn't shake the unease prickling beneath my skin. Truthfully, I hadn't thought about those diaries in years. They were relics from a distant life, pages written in bad pen, by a girl who hardly resembled the woman I am now. I hadn't opened any of them since before smartphones were a thing. But something about the way Jerry didn't look up, the way he gripped that little book, made me pause on the last step. The hair on my forearms stood up in warning. He finally turned, slow and deliberate, like he was carrying a live grenade. His face wasn't just angry. It was something darker, part shock, part disbelief, and something close to revulsion. "Yeah, Jan," he said, voice rough and a little shaky, "your diary. The one you apparently used to keep track of quite a lot." He raised it, not to hand it over, but to put it on display, his knuckles almost white. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the old freezer in the corner. Trying to keep the mood light, I reached for the diary, hoping he'd just give it back. "Jerry, come on. You know I wrote all sorts of nonsense when I was younger. It's probably nothing." But instead of letting go, he pulled it closer, jaw clenched. He wasn't buying my act. "Nothing? Is that what you call this?" he muttered, thumbing the edge of a page. "Because what I just read, my God, January." His voice hitched. "You've absolutely wrecked me." Suddenly, my pulse roared in my ears, so loud I wondered if he could hear it. I took a shaky breath, searching his face for a sign he was joking, that he'd found some childish scribble about a high school crush. But Jerry's eyes stayed locked on mine, cold, wounded, relentless. "What do you mean?" I whispered. He flipped to a page creased at the corner, his fingers trembling, and started to read. "I wish Jerry would propose already, but I'm so tired of waiting. Jim is just more exciting." And that thing Jim did with Jerry's mouth snapped shut. His next breath was sharp, ragged. He paged through again, his expression only hardening. "Wait. It goes on." Each word was a hammer on my heart. I remembered bits and pieces of what I'd written back then. Some real, some made up to impress. I don't know who. Myself, maybe. Or some future version of me I thought would laugh at how wild I once was. But hearing it in Jerry's voice made every careless word sound like a crime. He read, voice barely under control, "I can't stop thinking about Greg pinning me against the wall last night, his fingers on my skin. Jerry's out of town again. Maybe Greg will come over this weekend." He turned another page, breathing faster. I never thought I'd be the type to sleep with more than one man in a day. But here I am, Eddie in the morning, Matt in the evening. The rush is indescribable. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, but it's not hurting anyone, right? Jerry will never find out. I'm sure I'll settle down after we're married. Each line he recited felt like a punch to my gut, a knife to my pride. I pressed my palm to my mouth, the urge to cry rising with every word. I'd locked away memories, buried whole months of mistakes and impulsive choices, some real, some fantasy, but all damning when spoken aloud. Jerry's voice was shaking, but his hands were steady. "That was 30 years ago," I managed, voice cracking. "None of that matters now." He glared at me, slamming the diary shut with a force that made me flinch. "Doesn't matter?" he said, his voice echoing off the cinderblock walls. "You really think reading about my wife bragging about all her hookups is supposed to mean nothing to me?" He shook the diary at me, his hand trembling, eyes wild. I stepped back, squaring my shoulders, refusing to let him see me crumble. "I'm not that person anymore. I was a dumb kid, Jerry. I grew up." He snorted, disbelief dripping from every syllable. "Did you?" "Because some of this is from when we were engaged, January. I thought you were waiting for me. Turns out you had your own plans every time I went away." I crossed my arms, more out of defense than confidence. "That was ancient history. We've been married forever. I haven't seen those guys in decades." Jerry's reply rattled me. I had the right to know what I was marrying into. "You lied by hiding this. I was planning our life, and you, It was just a few times, I said, but even as I said it, I remembered it was a lot more than that. His glare could have frozen the air. Read your own words, January. You didn't just slip up, you went on a spree. You wrote about it. You kept records. There was a long, heavy silence. I looked away. People do dumb stuff when they're young. You can't change it. He laughed, a hollow, empty sound. That's your defense? That time erases everything? He turned, rifling through more boxes. He pulled out a battered shoebox, flipping through faded photos and yellowed cards. When he stopped, he was holding a Polaroid. My heart thudded painfully. Who are these guys? He asked, voice hollow. The photo showed me barely dressed, squeezed on a couch between 5 men with cocky grins. One flexed, another grinned behind me. My own face was lit up with wild joy. I tried to shrug it off, but no words came. Part 2. Oh, come on, Jerry. That's just a shot from some old party. I tried, though the image said plenty. There was no denying the vibe in that photo, one of those guys tucked close beside me, my hair a wild mess that could only mean a crazy night, and a scrawl in thick black marker at the bottom, the best night ever. Jerry's eyes shined with a watery gloss he wouldn't let turn into tears. He spoke softly, like the words physically hurt. Why would you keep this? Why hang on to a memory like that? His tone hovered between heartbreak and anger, both pulling him apart. I lifted my shoulders in a half-hearted shrug, but even I heard the weakness in it. Honestly, I forgot it was even in there, I said. The photo slipped out of his hand and hit the floor as if it burned to touch. Get out, Jerry ordered. He met my gaze without flinching, his face carved out of stone. I said get out, January. I glared back, but turned and marched upstairs, fighting back tears, my mouth twisted into something between a grimace and a sneer. This is beyond ridiculous, I muttered under my breath, feeling my anger bubble up, mixing with shame. Years of marriage, good years, tossed out over some ancient mistakes. Why did he even start poking around down there? A few minutes later, Jerry followed me up, the diary and photos clutched in his grip. You're going to your parents' house, he said flatly. He wasn't even yelling. That cold, measured tone felt worse than shouting. You can't just throw me out. I live here too, I shot back, hand shaking. He only shook his head. Not until I figure out what to do with all of this. He raised the diary. Do you understand how humiliating this is? For 30 years, I thought I knew my wife. I scoffed. If it was all a lie, then why did we have such a good life, Jerry? His whole body trembled. Was it good, Jan? Or did you just get bored cheating and settle for me? I rolled my eyes, desperate to seem unbothered. So I had a wild streak when I was young. Big deal. People change. His lips drew into a razor-thin line. Pack your stuff, or I'll do it for you. I wanted to argue, but something about his eyes told me he meant it. I slunk off to the bedroom, throwing clothes into a suitcase, my mind spinning. Outside the door, I could hear him pacing, restless and angry. As I zipped up my bag, my gaze landed on a family photo on the nightstand. Us, beaming, all in matching Christmas sweaters. I held it, closed my eyes, and whispered, he'll calm down. He has to. Jerry was waiting at the front door, stony-faced. I hauled my suitcase outside, chin up. Before I got in the car, I glared at him. You'll regret this, I said. He swallowed but said nothing. In my rear view, I caught a last glimpse, Jerry, standing in the doorway, gripping that diary like it held every answer. For a second, I hated him almost as much as I hated myself. Small towns are great for gossip. By the time I reached my parents' place, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing texts, missed calls. Linda, my closest friend, wrote, he's at the bar, telling everyone. Are you okay? I cursed under my breath. So, Jerry's pain was now everyone's entertainment. He wanted me humiliated. My parents, deep into their 80s, welcomed me with confused concern. I barely looked at them as I explained, jaw tight, that Jerry found some old journals and was blowing things out of proportion. I glossed over the rest, no mention of photos of the timelines that didn't add up. If it was before you were married, why is he so angry? Mom asked, puzzled. It's complicated, I muttered, refusing to reveal more. Meanwhile, Jerry called both our grown kids, video chatting them to unload everything, his side, my diary, the mess of it all. That night, my daughter's name flashed on my screen. Her voice shook with anger and disbelief. How could you do that to Dad? Sleeping with all those men while you were engaged. My cheeks flamed. Watch your tone, I snapped. Don't talk to me like that. She wouldn't back down. Dad sent us the pages. You hooked up with 5 guys in 1 week, Mom. while you were supposed to love him. My grip on the phone hurt. It's not what it sounds like. It was decades ago, I managed. My daughter's voice cracked. You lied to Dad. You lied to us. I can't believe I looked up to you. She hung up. For days, I tried to patch things up, but she barely responded. Then, out of nowhere, came the call that shook everything. My daughter's voice was eerily steady. Mom, she said, I sent for a DNA test. My heart lurched. The timeline, the diary, the memory of what I'd done. What are you talking about? I asked, voice raw. A simple DNA test, she replied, like it was nothing. Part 3. I've been meaning to do it for a while, for the genealogy stuff, but you know what else those tests show, right? My daughter's voice was tight, determination leaking through. I bit down on my lip. Sweetheart, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Those DNA kits aren't even that reliable. Her voice lost all warmth. They're accurate enough. Besides, Dad agreed to take it too. We'll see soon enough if it matches. My world pitched and spun. I managed, barely above a whisper. If you feel you need to, then go ahead. The days waiting for the results stretched on, torturous and slow. Every hour seemed to scrape against my nerves. I told myself I was being paranoid, convinced myself that Jerry had to be her father, that there was no other answer. I prayed, but the dread grew sharper with every sunrise. The answer came one hazy afternoon while I was still at my parents' house. My phone buzzed. My daughter's name flashed on the screen. I answered, and her voice came through, trembling. Mom, she tried again, voice cracking. It says Dad isn't my biological father. My heart shattered, the world tilting as I clutched the phone. I could barely form words. Oh my God. So it's true. I felt sick. Her voice broke into a high-pitched panic. My whole life's been a lie. Dad isn't my dad. How could you, Mom? Did you know? A sob escaped me. I suspected, but I was never sure. I thought maybe I was just imagining it. I'm sorry, honey. I'm so sorry. She was crying, breath ragged. Dad's packing up his things. He says he's leaving. He can't stay here. He wants to move near his parents in Florida or something. You have to fix this. Tears streamed down my face. How am I supposed to fix any of this? Your father, everything you know about him is real. He's loved you your whole life. But he's not my father, she whispered. This changes everything. The call ended. Shaken and desperate, I drove back to the house that used to be mine. I felt a mess of everything. Anger, shame, fear. When I walked in, Jerry was waiting in the living room, eyes red-rimmed, face grim. You've got nerve, he said, voice flat. Showing up now. I tossed my hair, forcing confidence I didn't feel. I need my things. He laughed, a bitter echo bouncing off the empty walls. You should take all of them. I'm leaving, for good. My breath caught. What about us? There's no us, January. You lied. You cheated, even before our marriage. Now our daughter isn't even mine. You kept that from me for decades. A swirl of shame and old defiance churned in my gut. I wanted to argue that it was all so long ago, that it shouldn't matter, but the test results killed that hope. Jerry, I was young. I didn't know for sure who the father was. I loved you, and I married you. You raised her. You're her dad, even if. Don't. He snapped, face contorted with pain. I raised her. I read stories every night. I paid for everything. You never even told me there was a chance she wasn't mine. You let me live a lie. I reached for him, hands trembling. I was trying to protect you. Protect her. He shook his head, voice sharp. Protect me? You made a decision for me, January. You played God with my life. Congratulations. I tried to touch his arm, but he flinched away. Don't even try. You're here for pity or to save your image. His eyes flicked over me with contempt. Selfish. Arrogant. That's you. My own anger rose. And you. Telling everyone. Humiliating me all over town. You're no saint, Jerry. He looked like he might explode, then forced himself calm. Get out. I wavered, but he pointed at the door. Go, or I'll call the police. My mouth quivered. He meant it. I turned, left, slamming the door behind me. Once in my car, I broke down sobbing, hands shaking on the wheel. Why are you crying? I muttered at myself. You did this. You made all of it. In a town of just over 3,500, news spread like wildfire. Everywhere I went, there were whispers, at the diner, the grocery store, the pharmacy. People stared, some with pity, most with judgment. Did you hear? Jan's daughter isn't Jerry's. I heard there's a photo. 5 men. Supposedly, it's scandalous. I tried to keep my head down, but it was impossible. In the cereal aisle, 2 women muttered, "He's leaving for Florida. She's getting what she deserves." That was it. I left my cart, ran out, heart pounding. Outside, my phone rang. "Mom. Jan, get back. Jerry's on the phone. He wants to talk." Heart hammering. I raced home, unsure if this was hope or doom. When I arrived, Jerry's voice was already on speaker. The room was thick with tension, like a thunderstorm about to break. Part 4. Jan's mother hovered by the phone, twisting her hands in her lap as it rang. When she answered, Jerry's voice came through, heavy with exhaustion. "I need a favor." For a second, Jan couldn't process it. "A favor?" she echoed, almost laughing in disbelief. Jerry let out a long, tired sigh. "Yeah, I've had enough, January. I'm leaving for Florida next week. I need you to sign some documents so we can move forward, a separation agreement." Jan's stomach twisted into a knot. "A separation, Jerry? Please, don't do this." "Just sign them," he replied, his tone cold, ignoring her plea. "Or I'll file for divorce, and you'll get nothing." No negotiation. Her parents exchanged horrified glances across the kitchen, their faces pale. Jan pressed her hands to her temples, frustration boiling over. "So this is it. You're just leaving me behind after 30 years. He gave a bitter, sharp laugh. "Actually, you left me long before now, the day you decided it was fine to betray me and keep it buried for decades. Sign, or I'll do things the hard way." Jan bit her tongue, fighting tears that threatened to spill. "Fine," she whispered, defeated. "Send them over." The following weeks crawled by in silence. Jan stayed shut away in her childhood bedroom, ignoring calls from curious neighbors and friends. Her only glimpses of Jerry's new life came from rumors. Whispers that he'd been seen out with Susie, Jim the electrician's ex-wife, the same Jim who'd starred in her old diary. The news sent a hot wave of jealousy and anger through January. "He's just doing the same thing I did," she muttered, pacing. "Only now he wants everyone to see it. He wants me to suffer." Part of her knew Jerry had every right to move on. But the idea of him and Susie bonding over heartbreak, swapping stories about Jan and Jim, felt like a cruel cosmic joke. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You reap what you sow, Susie." Jan's blood ran hot. She told herself to ignore it, but her fingers typed back anyway. "Leave me alone. This is none of your business." The reply was almost instant. "It's not your marriage anymore, sweetie. He deserves better." Jan squeezed her phone, furious. She stopped herself from replying further. "They can have each other," she lied to herself, but her heart ached. On a cold, gray Sunday morning, Jan decided to face Jerry one last time before he left for Florida. She wanted closure, maybe even a last chance to plead her case. The driveway was a mess of moving boxes, Jerry directing a friend who was helping load them into a rental truck. When Jerry saw her car, his expression hardened. He marched over before she'd even finished parking. The wind cut through his hair, highlighting new lines on his face. Lines of stress, loss, maybe hate. Jan climbed out, ignoring the friend's stare. "We need to talk. Alone." Jerry hesitated, then nodded, leading her into the house. The living room was nearly empty, the walls lined with cardboard, the old couch already gone. Jerry folded his arms. "Say what you need to say." She swallowed. "Jerry, please. I know I messed up. I'm sorry. But 30 years of marriage, 3 decades, shouldn't be erased. I made horrible decisions when I was young, but I've been faithful since. You know that." He scoffed. "Actually, I don't know anything for sure now. You hid a whole side of yourself." She stepped closer, ignoring the derision in his voice. "Our daughter, maybe she's not biologically yours, but you're her real father. You always have been. She loves you. And so do I." A muscle in Jerry's jaw flexed. "Yeah, well, you should have thought about that before lying for 30 years. Jan's voice broke. "It was a mistake. I'm not that person anymore. Don't throw everything away." Jerry stared at her, eyes unreadable. "A few months ago, I might have tried. But after reading your diaries, they're ancient," she cut in, voice trembling. "Stop acting like this was yesterday." His voice rose. "It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or 30 years ago. You let me believe I married someone honest. You kept a whole graveyard of secrets, Greg, Eddie, all those guys, and that picture. I can't unsee it. Jan's face flushed with shame, but she straightened. I can't change the past. Exactly, Jerry said, voice suddenly quiet. And I can't change how I feel. Jan's composure crumbled, tears rolling down her cheeks. So that's it. You're just gone. He nodded. We're already over January. The paperwork's just catching up. She clasped her hands. Please, can't we try counseling? No, he said flatly. I won't live with this. I won't wonder. I can't look at you and not see them. Her shoulders sagged. So you'll run off with Susie? Jerry shrugged. At least she's got no secret diaries. Doesn't matter. We're finished, January. Part 5. A hot flash of anger surged through January. You're a hypocrite, Jerry. If you're running around with her, and you can't forgive me for things I did decades ago, that's not fair. He cut her off with a dry, bitter laugh. You really don't get it. This was never about me moving on with anyone. It's about the deep betrayal, your arrogance, the foundation of lies our whole marriage was built on. If you can't understand that, then I have nothing more to say. For a moment, they just stood there, silence stretching, the air between them crackling with tension. Suddenly, Jerry's friend poked his head through the door. Sorry, man, but the truck's all loaded up. We should hit the road soon. Jerry nodded. Right. Jan stared at him, eyes silently pleading for something. Anything. But Jerry just turned away, grabbed his coat, and disappeared out the front door. The days slipped by, then weeks. Jerry moved to Florida. Their daughter relocated to Orlando for her new job. Their son stayed up in Atlanta. Jan, meanwhile, found herself alone in the bedroom she grew up in, haunted by everything she'd lost. Every night, she'd scroll through her phone, thumbing old photos, her and Jerry at barbecues, birthdays, holidays, each one a small punch to the chest. She'd replay the day in the basement, wishing she'd shredded those diaries, or better yet, never written them. But it was too late. Regrets changed nothing now. Calls trickled in from old friends, each hungry for gossip. She ignored them all. No one wanted to really help. They just wanted the story. Jan shut herself off, barely speaking even to her parents. No excuse, no rationalization, could erase the facts. She had destroyed her own family. One night, as loneliness pressed in, she nearly drove to Florida to beg Jerry in person, but pride and shame kept her back. The man she'd loved, the one who'd raised a daughter thinking she was his, was truly gone, body and soul. She wondered if she'd lost herself too. In a late-night bout of longing, she texted her daughter, I'm so sorry. I love you. Please let me know how your new place is going. No answer. Next, she tried her son, leaving a tearful voicemail. Please call me. I know you're hurt, but I love you both more than anything. Silence. One cold evening, Jan's father found her in the dark, staring blankly at the wall. Jan, he said gently, sitting beside her. I know this is rough, but maybe you should try seeing your kids in person. Jan just shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. They won't talk to me. I'm a total outcast now. Her father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. You have to see it from their perspective, especially your daughter's. Her whole sense of self has been shaken. I know, Dad, Jan whispered. And it's all my fault. If only I'd been honest with Jerry from the start. She trailed off, the weight of it too much to finish. He looked at her, sorrow etched deep in his face. You might not get Jerry back, but you can try not to lose your children too. Let them be angry if they need. Apologize as many times as it takes. Don't let pride or stubbornness stop you. Jan nodded, burying her face in her hands. I don't know if they'll ever forgive me. He squeezed her shoulder. Maybe they won't. But you keep trying. That's all you can do. Months slipped past. Jan found a small job at a local boutique, anything to keep busy. She lived with her parents, cooked meals, cleaned the house, anything to distract from the ache in her chest. Jerry, she heard, had settled near Tampa, renting a small house by the water. Some said he and Susie were close, maybe even together. Jan tried not to care, but it gnawed at her anyway. Her daughter remained distant. She only texted about bills or taxes. Her son didn't answer at all. At night, Jan replayed everything. Photos, the old diary pages, that day she discovered she was pregnant and never thought to question the timeline. Back then, it all seemed harmless, easy to brush aside as the past. But now she saw how the past never truly vanishes. It waits, hidden in boxes and old photos, ready to explode years later. Sometimes, as she drifted to sleep on her childhood bed, She'd hear Jerry's voice in her mind. You built our marriage on lies. Maybe, she thought, he was right. But in her dreams, she still saw the Jerry who'd loved her, who'd laughed at inside jokes and taken turns driving their daughter to practice. She'd wake with tears drying on her cheeks, the heartbreak fresh every morning. Life dragged forward, fragmented, lonely, haunted by regrets. Jan knew she would forever replay the moment in the basement. Jerry, the diary in hand, the words she never thought would matter. That moment, more than any other, shattered everything, and there was no way to rewrite it. The end.